What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with my college basketball week 7 top 25. But before we get into it, hit that subscribe button down below to be entered into our giveaway at 500 subscribers. Dropping from this week's rankings are Northwestern after a loss. They're finding themselves out of the rankings after just barely getting in last week. And that brings us to our others receiving votes. And you have teams like Wisconsin, who's actually ranked in the AP poll, but we over here do not have them ranked. And then Texas A&M, Utah, Auburn, and Colorado. Those teams just missed the cut in AP poll as well, as they're right there fighting for a top 25 spot. We'll break it down 25 through 21 here. Miami, Ole Miss, Virginia, and Duke are all staying the same after a win last week against some not the best teams. But Memphis is joining the pack here after a big win against an undefeated Clemson team at home. Squeaked that one out by 2 points. And now it's Virginia and Memphis. Those two teams play each other early in the week. Should be a great game to really see where both these teams stand at this point in the season. 20 through 16. And BYU, Colorado, some good stories so far this year, both 10 and 1. And I don't think a lot of people saw that coming this early. Clemson, obviously suffering that loss to Memphis, suffers their first loss. So they're moving down a little bit here, and they look to get back on track against the Queens. Probably should beat them by pretty good. And then FAU and Illinois move up because of Clemson's loss. And FAU, a team that really could turn some heads this week if they can go into Arizona and beat them on the road. And then Illinois, I think that Illinois-Missouri game is going to be a game to look out for. I think that could be a tougher game than people think. 15 through 11. James Madison moves up to the top 15. They just keep on winning. And that Michigan State win now is looking better for them after they beat Baylor. Texas moves up one after their win against LSU. Gonzaga moves down two after their loss to top 5 team UConn. They kind of were in that one, but they really never got within a few possessions to possibly take the lead. Creighton, they're moving down out of the top 10 after their loss to UNLV on the road, but they did, help their week by getting a win against Bama, and Bama's going to be a tournament team. Not as good as they has been in recent years, but they will still be decent. And then North Carolina falls out of the top 10 as well, just moving down one spot after a 4-point loss to Kentucky. And they have a tough game this week as they have Oklahoma at home, an undefeated team coming into their place. Nothing could get North Carolina back into the top 10 with a win like that. And jumping into the top 10, you have Kentucky after beating those Tar Heels. 6 players currently are averaging 10 points per game. And Antonio Reeves and Rob Dillingham are reasons why that this team is 8-2 in the top 10 right now. 9, you have Baylor, and they're falling from 6 to 9 here because of a very ugly loss on the road at Michigan State. They just didn't play, didn't show up. And, going against a team well coached like Michigan State, you're not going to be able to pull those out. Now they get Duke on the road in Cameron Indoor. That'll be a tough game. Then Mississippi Valley State should win that one. So they're probably going to get to 10 wins here, maybe 11. 8 is Tennessee, and they're jumping into the top 10 as well. They've won now 4 straight after losing 3 straight tough games to ranked teams and good opponents. And this team, I think, is still one of those teams to look out for in the SEC. 8-3, 3 losses this early for a top 10 team is not unheard of, but it's not common. But Tennessee, those losses, like I said, were all to very good teams at the time. And now they're finally starting to play their best ball here. 7 is Marquette, and they squeaked one out against St. Thomas, Minnesota in a game that I don't think a lot of people saw them winning by 5 points. So now this week, they got to turn that around, have some Big East opponents in Providence and Georgetown, as they're going to look to get into the thick of things right before Christmas. At 6 is Oklahoma, and they take care of Green Bay at home. And now they're going on the road to Chapel Hill to face the Tar Heels. And if they can beat North Carolina, you're probably going to be looking at a top 5 team at this point next week, just because Oklahoma's turning some heads. And if they can get that win, then all attention is going to be on these Sooners. At 5, you have UConn. They're staying put here after their win over Gonzaga in Seattle. And they really took it to them now. 3 strong wins in the top 25 against Texas, UNC, and Gonzaga. Their only loss this year is to Kansas, who, you haven't seen them yet, and they're a top 4 team. And they have a really good shot at going back-to-back this year, and I expect them to maybe lose a few games in the Big East, but they're heavy favorites. 4 is Arizona. They fall from 1-4 after their loss to Purdue last week on the road. And now they get Alabama, which could be a tough game, and then FAU. So two tough home games for them. And I think if they go 1-1, I think it's a decent week for them. I mean, obviously they want to win both, but looking at these opponents, don't be too surprised if Arizona suffers another loss. Kansas stays at 3 after just getting past Indiana on the road. It was a tough game for them to play, but McCullough really came through clutch for them, 13 through 16 at the free throw line. Hunter Dickinson yet again another double-double. And if they didn't have Dickinson, I don't think this Kansas team would be where they are right now. They finally have some guy inside to really hold this team down as the team loves to shoot. Purdue moves up to 2 after their win against #1 Arizona last week. Zach Edey had another great game, but Braden Smith has played really well in his last 2 games, 27 and now 26 in the win over Arizona. They face Jacksonville this week before Christmas in what should be a for sure win. And at 1, I'm going with Houston. They're 10-0. They've been a top 5 team all year for me. And when you just keep on winning, eventually you find yourself at the top. And unfortunately, the AP poll doesn't think so, as they're at 3. But it wasn't a strong win against Texas A&M at home, only winning by 4 points. But a win is a win. And in this point, I think that matters this early in the season. And Emmanuel Sharp is a name to look out for come February, March, where he might be leading this Houston team to cutting the nets. But that's going to be it for my Week 7 Top 25. Stay tuned till next week to see if your favorite team is cracking the top 25. But until the next time, the Bench Buddies are out.